Hello, and you're very welcome to listen to JMac Podcast. I'm John Mann. Of course, this podcast is brought to you by Urgretcher.com. You can call JMac Podcast get 15% off on the website. And tonight, I'm joined by a great crew of men. We basically nearly have a full house. A couple of lads missed tonight, but this is as good as it gets. Former Armagh Cross Glen footballer Johnny Murta, GA Statsman Matthew Hurley, Gaelic Life journalist Mike McMullen, Kerry Eye journalist David Byrne, and Anthony's greatest son Kevin McCarthy. I'll start off with Mr. Who will I pick on? Johnny Murta, how are you?
Good, John. Thanks. Great to see you. It's having been on for a while, so it's good to see all the lads. Looking forward to going over the weekend of action. So a lot to go through, and conscious of all the lads. So look, it's good to be back.
Definitely, Mr. Hurley, how are you?
All good now, all good. Yeah, hectic weekend, both football hurling, and it's been pretty good for me, like a hectic weekend for both teams, and so a lot to
Brilliant stuff. Mr. McMullen, how are you?
All's good, lads. All's good. Back for more action. I bet like haven't been on here for a while, so it's always good to chat a bit of ball.
It is indeed. Mr. Byrne, how are you?
Good, guys. The band is back together, I think. Which I still have been on the way. Good on. Talk football. Good weekend.
Oh, God, it was indeed. Mr. McCarthy, how are you?
It's like being back in One Direction. With the band back together again. No, it'll be interesting to talk this week because, John, after last week that we had all the end of, I suppose, the provincial championships and then what we get into this week. Interesting to talk about the Tyrone Galway game for me and to hear Davey's thoughts on this brilliant Kerry defence that all of a sudden is so exposed. So I'm really looking forward to getting into the chat this week because, it's last weekend posed some interesting questions. So interesting to hear some facts, and hopefully Matthew can put some context as a Cork man on how bad Kerry have been this year defensively.
There we go. I think it'll take great pleasure in that. I suppose that, of course, there is one place to start from the weekend action. In Fitzgerald Stadium, it was Mayo 119, Kerry 17 points. And I suppose that's a great game. Mr. Clifford stealing the show. But a remarkable game, Mr. David Byrne.
Yeah. Kerry very, very often at the back. I think they're really in David Moore in the middle. The wing backs went forward, and they don't hit him on the break. Really forward. There's a lot of work there. What's amazing is that but it's like the pressure is on him now going down to Cork in 2 weeks. Yeah, so I as I said, they're really missing David Moore, and you can see in the middle there. No criticism of the two boys, but they're struggling. They're not on form. Sonny O'Shea looks a shadow of himself last year. But credit to Mayo, they were very, very impressive. And people talk about 3 going out of their group, but really the pressure's on Kerry now, isn't it? I was saying off before we came on there. I was saying David Clifford kind of carried them. One thing they did, they were stopping the runs of Paddy Clifford. He had an extremely, extremely quite day. Kerry will improve, but it's hard to carry on what they did last year. And you look at last year, Dublin were really rebuilding still. Tyrone, bit of a hangover from the year before, and Mayo last year. And Kerry, I don't think they'll get an easier chance to win All Ireland like they did last year. This year, it's a completely different championship.
I suppose what stood out from the Mayo end of things, David, but obviously a great win for Mayo and a great start to the All Ireland series, but they take a lot of confidence from that win on Saturday.
Yeah, they were impressive. I must say that they made Kerry look average. I think they got their tactics right. Kerry, I think one thing that Jack did last year, Jack Connery came in, was really strengthen the Kerry defence that did focus on, because the year before they were poor defensively. Whether he's trying to go back to playing that attacking style football the Kerry public demand, that maybe there's that little pressure there, but they were very, very exposed at the time, and Mayo were impressive. Aidan O'Shea was top class. Carr as well, and Ryan O'Donoghue, I thought 3 of them were very, very impressive. And the midfield completely controlled the game. I thought Kerry midfield, they really struggled, and then they look exposed at times, and I think Mayo are very, very impressive though, I think, but it's the same old story again. Time will tell.
Yeah, and I suppose from the Kerry end of things, obviously a lot of disgruntled kind of Kerry fans maybe after the game reading online. Like, is there much need yet to be panicking about this Kerry performance?
No, I wouldn't think so. I mean, the way the structure set up, they will get out of this group. No disrespect to Cork or Louth. You expect them to pick up at least another 3 points for those games. I expect them to win those 2 games, but they're going down to Cork now with a bit of pressure. I think, there's a lot of remarks there. A huge chunk of the crowd left early last day, which was very strange. Like, they're all Ireland champions, and there's a huge crowd in Clarny, and they started to leave early, which I think, that puts the pressure on the players going out to Cork now in 2 weeks. And there's expectations there, which isn't always a good thing, as you know, and I think it's kind of, you see the Limerick hurlers now as well, it's maybe kind of catching up on them. They had 2 years of COVID championships, which kind of suited them with no crowds. Not as crowds the last 2 years, and there's so much expectations of Kerry now. I think that it's they will get out of the group, but they could easily draw Tyrone or a Dublin in the quarterfinals, which would catch up. I think Mayo, the group winners, will have an easier chance going into the quarterfinals. The way it's set up, there is criticism of the setup, but I think Kerry now, after losing the first game, will struggle.
Yeah, definitely be interested to hear the lads' points. A cocktail of selection tonight, lads. Johnny, what was your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, well, look, I would think he was probably playing it down a wee bit. I think it was a lacklustre performance from Kerry. I do think Clifford was a standout contender as always, and he did shoulder a lot of the stuff. We just said off air, I thought on another day Clifford could have finished maybe with 310. It was absolutely ridiculous what he was doing. On another day, you don't normally see Clifford missing them goal chances, but they were getting them. For all the good football Mayo was playing. I do agree with the midfield. Jack Barry was all over the place. There's definitely have a bit of a problem there. And I just really think it was a really bad day at the office in defence. I would tend to forgive them for that. Like, Mayo had 6 weeks to prepare to get themselves ready for a game. They didn't know they were going to be playing Kerry, obviously, but they had a chance to get themselves ready. And funny, I was chatting to one of the Mayo backroom team in London. We actually watched the Armagh game together, and he was rip-roaring ready. He says, we are ready for this game, and we're going to attack it with everything we have. So it didn't surprise me that they got the win. It actually surprised me just how poor Kerry was, and particularly the defence. The defence was all over the place, and some real silly mistakes being made in defence. We haven't seen that from Kerry in a long, long time. So I think this could actually be the boot in the ass that Kerry needed. And I think there'll be a wounded animal. Like, it's not too often, Mayo had the homework done to a T, but it's not too often you see Sean O'Shea being very, very quiet. Pádraig Clifford being very, very quiet. Like, them boys are going to make a big statement. And like I said, on another day, they could have got over the line if Clifford had a rattle the net there with a few goal chances, So some people saying online Kerry got a hiding by Mayo, but I don't think. I think, I put it to you this way, I think if Kerry meets Mayo in Croke Park, there's only going to be one winner. That's a fact. It's going to be Kerry.
What do you think about that, Kevy?
I think Johnny's last point is very interesting, very, in a way, controversial. Sorry about the background noise. Unfortunately, I'm caught short tonight, but I want to contribute to this. I think when I spoke to you last week, I said I think it would be the making of this Mayo team going to Fitzgerald Stadium in a championship-type game to try and win. And they were absolutely exceptional. And to hear Johnny, what he said about meeting a member of the Mayo backroom team, they were hungry. They were good. Their forward play was exceptional. Ryan O'Donoghue was exceptional. Kerry, on the other hand, and in a way, I don't accept what Johnny said about this, about, it's just another day. Kerry have been poor all season. Really been poor. Sean O'Shea has been lackluster, to use Johnny's word, all year. Yes, David Clifford is the most phenomenal talent, natural talent we have in our game. But if you're relying on one guy to win you in All Ireland, even though he's that exceptional, it isn't going to happen. And for how much, I said this to you last week when we previewed this game, for how much that we respect what Kerry did last year in their defence, the defence this year has been horrible. 20 scores. We look back at the Brazil team, back in the day in the World Cup, you score 6, we score 7. They're conceding far, far too much. They've been so lackluster in the league. They've been so inconsistent, so un-Kerry-like. And, okay, we're going to mention other people like Paul Gagné up front who didn't have a bad game, who showed us quality. But I think Johnny mentions another decent point about the Kerry midfield. This is really concerning at the minute for Kerry. Yes, of course, they will qualify and they will be in the last 8 and probably the last 4. But the way things are going for them in the minute, I'm really, really worried for them. They're really poor at the back, and I don't know how to solve that. On the flip side of that, Mayo had huge challenges psychologically coming into this game. 5 weeks, 4 weeks away, whatever else it was. They came in, they were deadly hungry. I said to you last week, McStay would have a plan for the Cliffords. He did, definitely for Paddy Clifford. I really, really like the way Mayo is shaping up. Back and front, they look really, really good. They look like a real unit now. For a long time, we questioned Mayo's forward line. Look, they're potent at the minute. Yes, it's early on in the year, and we'll not get orgasmic about it until they get inside Croke Park. But I think they're showing really, really good shoots. And, as I said, this guy that they have at the helm, he's a good leader. He's a good manager. He's got good tactics. And that was, for me, that was the real, this was an acid test for them. 5 weeks out, going down to a team that were the All-Ireland champions and putting in that performance. Look, they made a big statement. But the big one thing with Mayo we always have to look at is, can they back that up? And I hope they can.
Yeah, 100%. We'll wait and see how it goes for them. Obviously, a great game on Saturday, and hopefully that can be the story for the championship. And we will move on to action. It took place in Pearse Stadium. It was Galway 16 points, Tyrone 13 points. I suppose, Matthew, what was your thoughts on this game? Good win for Galway?
Good win for Galway, yeah, but very poor quality. And I suppose the main thing was the weather in this game. It was absolutely treacherous conditions in Salthill. But I suppose the main thing out of this was the red card incidents for Tyrone in the first half. The Frank Burns red card, and I'm sure we'll get on to Donegal and Clare in a minute as well. Inconsistencies is a big deal. I know you don't want to abuse referees and things like that, but inconsistency is a huge thing in refereeing nowadays. It might be a red card for Frank Burns. It might have been a high challenge, but why wasn't it a red card for Hugh McFadden in Ennis at the weekend as well? So, referees have to be very, very, consistent with their decisions. And as well, the night walk on black card was very, very strange, especially when the Galway players were converging the referee as well for the Frank Burns red card as well. So, yeah, I think it was a game for refereeing decisions. It was a game that wasn't very good quality. I think Galway wouldn't give an iota. They won the game. They're probably going to top the group now. Well, like Armagh could easily put a test up to Galway. We'll have to see in the next few weeks. But the main thing, I suppose, for Galway is they performed badly, but they still won the game. And that's what Power Joyce would take out of it. Matthew Tiernan didn't have his best game. Shane Walsh had probably his best game in the championship this season with 2 points for play. But other than that, I don't think Galway performed to their utmost, really. That was the huge thing about it. And I think they'll be happy about the result, about the performance. Probably not so. And I think Tyrone might look at this game and think, I know they were down to 14 men, but they might think to themselves, this could be a game that got away from them.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Matthew. And I suppose, obviously, Galway will be impressed with the win. Pork Joyce be happy man this week. And obviously, Shane Walsh kicked the nice few spinners. Damien Comer played quite well as well. So Galway will be happy this week, Matthew.
They will be relatively happy, but I don't think they'll be happy with the performance, but they'll be happy about the win more so. To get out with the win, they'll probably beat Westmeath in the next game. That goes without saying, really. Like, Westmeath are just not up to this level, unfortunately. You'd have to fancy them against Armagh. I'm not sure where that game's going to be played. I think it's a neutral venue that game is, so that's still going to be a very, very tight game. But even if Galway get a draw on that, they'll top the group and go straight through to the quarterfinals. And as David mentioned earlier on, if you top the group, you get an easy draw in the quarterfinals afterwards, and that will probably suit the likes of Galway, the likes of Mayo as well, who beat Kerry as well. So if you top the group, it probably will suit you. Suit the team going further into the championship. They'll get an extra week's rest as well, and I think that'll stand to Galway definitely in the next few weeks. And when they do play well, they play damn well, Galway, like they did against Sligo, like they did against Roscommon. But this wasn't a good performance, this Tyrone game, but there is more in Galway, and I think that might be a pleasing aspect for Power Joyce, that he isn't giving too much away this early in the championship season either.
Absolutely, Matthew. I suppose, Mal, what was your thoughts on Tyrone's performance?
Yeah, well, I think obviously the red card was a huge factor in the game. There's no dressing that up. It completely changed everything about it, and it was a definite red card, no doubt about it. But as you say, it's the consistency. Hugh McFadden's has to be red as well, exactly. But not much in it. I suppose it came down to how Galway used their extra man. Like Tyrone in the second half had 6 short kickouts, Galway had 6 short kickouts in the second half and got a shot away nearly every time. Whereas Tyrone were getting the ball, they were getting short kickouts and they couldn't make it count. They couldn't break Galway down at all. And probably outside of Matty Donnelly and Petey Hart, what really have they got to show for their afternoon, really? And I suppose it would be a worry that you have to go back to the 2 old stagers to really go at the game. I think that's where they'll be concerned. I probably agree the fact that Galway will be just happy to get out of it. Like it wasn't at the game, obviously, but the weather was absolutely atrocious. It seemed a complete washout. And what Morgan got the black card for, I don't know. I can only presume it was for verbals of some description, just going by watching it on the telly. But it didn't really have an impact on the game. Because,
he should have been sent off. Mal, sorry to cut across you. He should have been sent off for his thuggery with his foot into someone's face, in my opinion.
At the first glance, I thought it was, but when you see the replay, I thought he was literally going up with his knee to protect himself in the goalmouth. At the first glance, I did think that, but when I saw it, I thought not. But Galway just looked like a team that are probably going to be purring along, and they're probably going to get to latter stages, and they're serious contenders for this All Ireland. If you ask me, but the Tyrone concern would be is, where do they go now? That's another game they possibly could have won. They'll be, if Frank Burns stays on, they can manage it a wee bit better. But
Mal, just to cut across it, would you think there's a small problem with strength and depth there at the minute with Tyrone? I think there is.
I think there is, to be honest. I actually felt like asking one of the Gaelic Life boys today, and I forgot. What's the story with Cathal McShane? I think he was
meant to be off the panel.
Oh, there you go. I wasn't aware of that at all. So because I was looking out for him, because like he had been a serious impact man for them the year they won All Ireland, Johnny. But they brought in young Shawnee O'Donnell as a sub, and I saw him playing McCrory Cup football and underage Tyrone, and he's an excellent footballer. But to go in there in a wet afternoon in Salt Hill for your debut, it's not easy. So I suppose, Johnny, it goes back to that point with so many people dropping off the panel. I would have to agree with you. There definitely is a strength and depth issue.
There's another mistake I thought Mal as well was to put McLean in as a third man midfielder nearly, or like another midfielder. I didn't think. I thought Tyrone midfield was handling okay. They were doing. I just didn't think McLean didn't bring that into the game. Like I thought it was a total wrong move, and then that really clarifies to me that the strength and depth.
But Johnny, just to jump in this, I spoke about this last week at the tail end of the programme. He was my man to watch this week, right? So if you got a marquee guy like that, why do you bring him out to midfield? Stick him in full forward, see what you've got. And I spoke about this as well in recent weeks. Tyrone have not replaced a guy like Conor McKenna. They can win his own ball, but also can score. And McLean's the guy. So, why do you rob Peter to pay Paul? That's my point to you.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
No, they have an issue. I suppose it was the fact that, like, Matty Donnelly might have been involved in the first 2 or 3 scores in the first half, and I think Petey Hurt must have won something like at a guess, because I was only watching it on telly, 3 or 4 kickouts in a row in the middle of that second half, but they were never able to break it. They would get a point, and it was it was end to end. It was like a game of tennis at a stage. And it comes back to that point, the man, the extra man, and there's so many regrets about that. And the problem, maybe not so much with Tyrone, but definitely with Armagh and definitely with Derry. I think the Ulster teams that are in the finals have to they have to top their group. It's as simple as that. Like an Armagh or a Derry have to avoid that preliminary quarter final, because the natural progression for a championship is a match. A week off, a match, and the last thing those 2 teams need is to be into a playoff and maybe playing away from home somewhere. So I definitely think there's an advantage of topping the group from that point of view.
Yeah. There we go, lads. There we go. Worrying times for Tyrone. And is that, Johnny? Is that confirmed with Colin McShane?
Yeah, well, I've heard it in the gym this evening that from a Tyrone man that's because I asked the question. I was like, wasn't even on the squad.
Yeah.
And that's what he says to me, that he's meant to have left the panel. I don't know why, but
okay.
Whether it's an injury, I don't know.
There you go. Huge loss, Kevy.
Massive. Remember, this is the guy that I said that was a sub 2 years ago when I thought he should have been on the All-Star team, because for me at the business end of the season, he was the one that won the All-Ireland. Remember the goals he scored in the semi-final and then again the final. So huge loss. He can play midfield. He can be that focal point in attack. To be honest with you, there's a saying in life called a busted flush. And I think that Fergal Logan and Brian Dure are now a busted flush. I think it's only a matter of time that they go. I don't see Tyrone cutting no depth this year in the championship, if I'm totally honest with you. And we've seen that earlier on. In the league, they were quite sporadic. I thought the Kerry game could have been the big one that turned them around, but obviously not. They will qualify. Of course, they'll get into the last 8 or whatever else it is, but I don't see them cutting no depth after that. And this is a team that basically with the same players won the All-Ireland 2 years ago. As I said to you last weekend, and I'll leave it at this, they continued this weekend to field the fire players in the tail end of the at the hard end of the championship. Canavan, McLean, they need to change it up. They've flirted with sludding in and out. You know, I just don't know why, but I think they're a busted flush now, if I'm honest with you, as management team. And I don't see Tyrone doing anything. I've wrote them off in the past to my own, I suppose, to my own detriment. But the way they are now at the minute, no, I don't see them going anywhere. They're not a Galway. They're certainly not a Dublin or a Kerry or even what we see at the weekend, Mayo. They're definitely not that level at the minute. I would say they're probably, in terms of their camp, they're very much, their psychology is very much down.
I took a wee check there. McShane, out of the first 8 games for Tyrone, he started 7. Came on as a sub in the McKenna Cup and hasn't played since they played Mayo. But he's their 3rd top scorer of the season, and he hasn't kicked the ball in 5 matches. So unless there was an injury there or whatever, but back to Johnny's point, strength and depth.
Yeah.
Whenever the game's tight and you look up into that stand, you need somebody with a wee bit of experience. And you know, the likes of a Shawnee O'Donnell has got a huge future, but you know, Saturday's not a day for somebody like that to pull the game out of the bag.
And just to add to that, remember, this is Paul Donaghy, this is Ronan O'Neill, this is Mark Bradley. Have all left this panel in the last 2-3 years. There seems to be an issue there, so that's just my reflection on it.
And when you think back to the first half against Monaghan, sitting watching it at home, and the way they were playing, they were actually playing a bit like Mayo did at the weekend, with an inside line that was causing havoc. And they looked like All-Ireland contenders. And then the second half of the Monaghan match happens where, I suppose, Carl O'Connell and Kieran Hughes and Rory Began basically bossed the game, and it's been game over since.
And I suppose Matthew, from a Galway end of things, obviously a lot of focus on Tyrone there. Galway end of things, like Pork Joyce definitely will be happy, and I suppose onwards and upwards for them, and just keep plotting away at these group stage games.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the main thing for Power Choice. Like, they have a smashing team. You look at Matthew Tierney, Damien Comer, Shane Walsh. Like, it's a plethora of talents. Killy McDade had a pretty good game at the weekend as well, wing back, and like, it's amazing he's been out of midfield for so long because John Maher has played so well there at the moment. John Daly's a very good centre back. I suppose the big thing is the goalkeeper, the chopping and changing. They seem to be sticking with Conor Gleeson right now, but they might change it to Bernard Power for the next game against Westmeath. We'll have to see how that develops. I personally would go for Bernard Power goal, but Power Choice is the manager after all. And like, Galway still have very good subs on the bench they can bring on as well. And the strength and depth is huge. Like, Tom O'Culhan is an excellent footballer. Rob Finnerty can't get in the team. Desi Keneally's another player who hasn't hit form quite yet when he's played, but he definitely has the potential to do so, as seen in the club championship with Mike Cullen. So Galway have an amazing side, and they're definitely going to be, I think they're probably the front runners for the All-Ireland right now. Mayo might challenge them as of now, but we'll have to see over the next few weeks. But I think there could be a Connacht All-Ireland winner this year by the looks at the championship as it's going along so far.
Mayo fans rejoice. And then we'll talk about the other game on Saturday in Cusack Park. It was Donegal 14 points, Clare 9 points. Donegal, great win for them, big win for them, especially after the Ulster Championship and League campaign that they had. Mr. David Byrne, what did we think about that particular game?
Yeah, I was even thinking it today from a Limerick point of view. You know, that Clare, talking Clare, I suppose, would have Clare been better off in the Tailteann Cup, and they're kind of building a nice team there. Like, but they're going to struggle in that group because, like, we saw the form in Donegal and the league and the Ulster Championship. You know, they've been poor all year. Clare seem to kind of struggle against them. You know, I can't see. I think Clare will struggle to get out of that group. And when you see the form that Donegal and everything's going on off the field up there, you know, if it goes what we were saying about the group stages, you know, that the fact that 3 teams get out of it, you know, and Donegal have had a very, very poor season. You could still see him in a preliminary quarter final, like, but I I saw highlights of that now. It wasn't a classic for sure, you know. Despite their win, you know, Donegal they still have their problems, they're poor. It just shows the difference in quality really the rest of Munster when you take out Kerry compared to the Ulster in the Connacht Championship. You know, it really shows for a remit for the calls to change the championships, because I think the likes of Clare, you know, you see the likes of Clare and that, and if it wasn't Clare, it would have been Limerick, you know, and they're going to struggle at this stage in the championship, because Donegal are, you know, they are poor, but they could still see themselves getting out of that group. It wasn't a classic for sure in Ennis, you know. But saying that, you know, they're the two teams that will fight it out for maybe second and third in that group.
I suppose, Mal, good win for Donegal after a very disappointing season so far.
A massive win for Donegal, to be honest. I worried for them because they didn't score an awful lot all year. And like the way I looked at it was like Clare were an established Division 2 team. Now, I know they get relegated this year, but you know, they're 7 years in Division 2, good steady team, and with all Donegal's injuries. But I think it came down to a Sean Patton save at an important stage at maybe 4-1. I'm only going by the highlights, to be honest. That's all I know about it. And I think he was maybe involved in a couple of scores as well. But Oisín Gallen looked dangerous when he came on as a sub against Down. And I suppose you never get tired watching Kieran Thompson's effort as left-footed points going over the bar. He just looks so natural. And that's what it came down to. They definitely needed it, but I don't know how much more Donegal can get out of their season. To be honest, I think the county needed something. They needed a victory of sorts, and they've got it. But by all reports, you know, Peadar Mogan's not going to be back. Michael Langland's injury, I was reading on Donegal Live, seems to be the same as what McBurdy's was. Although Paddy Bradley did say in his interview that they did expect McBurdy back at some point, but you know, what value is somebody going to be now with having missed so much time with injury? But I think Donegal have to start thinking about next year anyway. That's a long-term project. Who they get in as manager is another debate. You know, you couldn't see Aidan and Paddy staying. You know, just they seem to have taken it on as a sort of a stay on to the end of the season type arrangement. So I think that's where Donegal needs to think in the long term. But it leaves Clare in a difficult position now. You know, a game that was 50-50 that they could have won. I actually tipped it for a draw. They lost it, and now they could end up slipping out of the All-Ireland series.
Yeah, and I suppose, Johnny, is that as true as it is? Can you see Paddy Bradley and Aidan Rourke stepping aside even no matter how Donegal get on?
Well, that's an interesting take from Mal. I don't honestly know, because we've seen the fiasco that they had in getting the management team in the first place, and if they're going to look for somebody else, Mal, they probably want to start it last week. It took them that long the last time, you know. So you know, it's baffling. Everything about it is completely crazy. Look, it all depends, as Mal says, it really all depends on how the boys get on. If they can get a wee run there, if they can get out of the group, like, I actually think that was a result of the weekend.
Yeah, agree.
It was a result. Because anybody I was talking to, no matter where it was, they were completely written off. Clare was going to beat them. That was it. It was a foregone conclusion. That was a serious result. Now, and I know maybe McFadden, maybe as Matthew alluded to, I think, you know, he could have got a red, you know, but listen, you roll with the punches and you get on. But Oisín Gallen is serious, absolutely outrageous talent, and he's a raw talent. You know, guys that gets have big games and stepped up. Patton is phenomenal, one of the best goalkeepers in the country, you know, when he's on his game. You know, so like, it was a massive result considering where the year they've had, what they're missing, you know. So I think they can get out of the group now. I really do. Now it'll really help them next year Like that's what they're building for is actually next year, and another couple of games will really bring them on too. So if that happens, man, I think like there's nobody going to be bouncing in to rip the hand off it. So I think the boys could maybe stay on and maybe add somebody to the backroom team. Maybe that's just my opinion.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't disagree with that. I suppose my point is that they do need to be thinking about next year. And to be fair about it, Paddy Carr, Paddy Bradley, Aidan Rourke, they came in, as you say, nobody was queuing up for it. They got it. But the problem was then, with the amount of injuries they hadn't got an easy hand to work from.
No.
And but then the players get rid of Paddy Carr, which was a strange one. Because then if you get rid of the manager, you're thinking to yourself, right, the manager must be the issue. And then you're tearing the paint off changing room walls to kill dead things at that stage, after getting rid of him. But I think long term, with all the, I suppose, the academy chat that was going on and the audit that's happening, Donegal as a county need to be thinking where they go, not just in the qualifiers now, but it's not that I think these boys have to go as managers. I just think because they're in temporarily, that they have a decision to make probably at the end of the year what they're going to do. But as a county, Donegal need to start thinking about where they're going.
Look, for me, it's all. For me, Johnny, it's. I don't know, Mal, what do you think? But it's all fur coat, no knickers. In a way that the wind covers up the cracks here. Do I think that Aidan and Paddy next year can help with a new manager coming in? I think they can, in a way. I also don't agree with it's a hand or dealt. Donegal underage have been excellent over a number of years. And Carl Lacey was in there. Obviously, we know that issue there. I think there's an obvious candidate for this job. And it's very, very obvious to me who Donegal should go for. Because in fairness, Donegal have been, with McGuinness, then Gallagher, then other people, have been very, very progressive. I think Jim Galvin is the man that they should go for. And I think that they have the economic resources, is that the best way to say it, to help them out there. But Aidan being someone with continuity and Paddy is dealing with this year's squad, and obviously if they get Carl Lacey back in, then that would help them. But that's just my view on it.
I think you need to mute him again, John, and just leave it on mute. Like, I agree with Carl Lacey. 100. Like, I believe whatever is going on, the fiasco mal with Donegal, they need to sort that out and get Carl Lacey definitely involved. Definitely. Donegal cannot afford to lose Carl Lacey at that level of coaching. For me, I think that's number one key. But I think Jim, I think you're pushing the boat out, Kevin, massively there. No way I can see that.
Jim Gavin, Kev.
I suppose you've got to speculate to accumulate. I think that Donegal have the resources to do that. When they were at a very bad low, they went for McGuinness, who was a bit of a maverick. Jim Galvin has tried, tested, proven. I think that there is a good core base to work from there. I think that if you've got Carl Lacey and him working in tandem with each other, that you have something there that you can, over the next 2, 3, 4 years, yes, you can get. So it might seem weird to people, but Donegal's a huge county. Huge success underage over the last 5, 10 years. And if you get a big appointment in there, I think people are going to say, look, they'll go back to McGuinness or, look, to James Horan or someone like this. No, go for what cuts it. And I think Galvin's the man. That's just my opinion.
There's better chance of Rory Gallagher going back in than there is a Jim Galvin.
But are you saying that, Kevin, from the point of view of look what Louth did with Mickey Hart going in here? Let's appoint somebody like Mickey Hart, for example, and what he is. Is that where you're coming from?
I suppose that's a fair point, man. Yeah, we look at what he's done in there, but I think that let's pay due respect and not disrespect in a way, like Mickey Hart went in, and we know what he's worth, and we know what Horse is worth in terms of their quality of their coaching and their management and their resources at their disposal and the hand that they're dealt. When you go into Donegal, no matter who you are, you're going to be dealt a half decent hand. And if it's Mickey Hart that goes in there, there's another name, by the way. But if you go in there, I think that you've got good resources. I think you've got good underage setup. I think that you also have possibly a good financial backing. I think it's a win-win situation for anybody that goes in there, from what it has been. And it's up to you to put your stamp on it. But I do think they need a big name. Mm-hmm. And for me to say that is, it's about galvanising the county again. Look, we talked about these guys. Kieran Thompson's one of the best players in Ireland. The way that he kicks the ball is unreal, right? Gallen, the goalkeeper himself is a phenomenal goalkeeper. So there is resources there, but it's how they attack this and what their ambition is. And if you bring someone in there like Mickey Hart or Jim Galvin, the players are going to respond. There's another one for you. Where's McHugh this year? Are we going to get him back? Because he's definitely got a couple of years left in him. Bring him back, get the ambition out there, see where it goes.
I think the Donegal scenario is that they have a couple of things going for them. They're underage. As much as they've had good teams, they haven't as much success. But I think they're underage. They need to get that sorted out one way or another through Cardacey or whoever comes in there. Like Derry, there was a stage where Derry had hardly won a minor game in 10 years. And now that they're going for they're in their seventh final in 9 years through planning and through schools.
You want to be from Antrim?
But planning and schools. The other thing Donegal have going for them is that AT, that Letterkenny AT, they can use as a base to keep their players at home and use it as a sort of a development squad for their underage. So I think no matter who takes charge of the seniors, there needs to be a sort of a long-term look at, as you say, Kevin, maxing whatever youth they have and getting the structures in place the way they have been doing. Like the minor team that won the league this year in Donegal, that was the first team that came through their development structure. So it's no coincidence that you have a team that's in the top 2 or 3 teams in Ulster. So you have to get back to that and use that ATU Donegal College team as a sort of a under 23 team or whatever to get your players into senior level. But that's a debate for another day. But the county board have to do that themselves.
John, if I'm leaving out this, right, I suppose my overall point is this. If I'm a manager like Jim Galvin, or I hate to sound premiership wise here, out of work, or Mickey Hart even, and I'm offered a new venture, Donegal is the one I'm looking at, because they have good, strong structures. They have a good support system. If they get Lacey back in there and his coaches back in there, they have a good population. They have lots of finance. This is the one I'm looking at, really saying, to break that glass ceiling of the top 5, 6 at the minute, the way things are, absolutely.
Jim Gavin to Donegal, Johnny.
You need a few set-ups.
Get the t-shirts made up.
Oh, Lordy, Kevin, you never fail to entertain us. You never fail to entertain us. And
He can fly himself up to the airport, sure.
He's going to need a plane.
He's going to need a bloody miracle. Oh, Kevy, I don't know. What were you drinking last night? We'll move on to Tall Cup action. Kevy's face is going to be smiling now in a few seconds. In Fraherfield, it was Meath 3-17, Waterford 1-14. Any thoughts on this one, Kevy?
Epic. The only good thing about it was the cheerleaders.
Move on to Carrick-Shannon. Fermanagh 1-19, Leitrim 2-7, Glennon, Bros, Pierce Park, Longford 3-17, Wicklow 2-9, and then Netwood Cullen Park. It was Limerick 1-19, Carlow 14. David Byrne, calm down, please.
It's coming home. Yeah, the Limerick are looking good in fairness. Should top that group now. They're playing Wicklow next, so I think what happened with off the field at the start of the year, they needed those couple of wins they needed. We don't. There was no cheerleaders at the weekend, but I think Limerick will be dark horse for the latter stages of the Tapping Cup. To be honest with you, Meath look good. We won't write off Cavan yet, but Limerick could go far in it. To be honest with you, they're looking decent again.
Yes, absolutely. And then we'll move on to, here we go, Chadwick's Wexford Park. It was Antrim 2-15, Wexford 14 points. Kevin McGarty.
Yeah, 2 in a row. The last time Antrim got 2 in a row, I suppose Roy Orbison was still top of the charts.
You were playing?
Look, no, listen, fair play to Andy McEntee.
You don't sound as he didn't listen to you, Johnny. He didn't hear that one. Did you hear that one, Kevin?
No, I didn't hear him.
Johnny.
I said, yeah, you were playing.
Made up about 3 appearances for Antrim in about 15 years. But anyway, they only turned up at the championship. I only train once a week. To be quite honest with you, it's a good start. Look, I said that they'll probably make the quarterfinals and that. As I said last week when I was on with Aaron, their goal really was to stay in 3. I didn't think they would, and they put up a couple of big performances. Look, they've done 2 back-to-back now. The big one now is Fermanagh. Fermanagh got a lucky goal against them, if truth be told, in the last couple of minutes in Corrigan Park and turned them over. But when we look at this competition, we look at the top end of it. You've got Meath, you've got Down, you've got Offaly in there, I think. So, look, I don't think they can progress further than that. But it's great, as I said to you, and I'll just finish on this. Like I said to you last week, he's starting to get new players in there, the likes of Sean O'Neill, the likes of, Pat Chiver's been about a year or two, but more consistent run. Adam Loughlin came in last week, done really well. The 2 McCanns, both called Rory, one from Mahagall, one from Cragan, are doing really well. So, look, fair play to Andy McEntee in his first year. He has made a difference. He has brought new people in there. So, I suppose this year's a development year for them, and 2 wins in a row is great for them.
Taunton Cup 2023, Kevin?
Maybe 2027.
Brilliant stuff as usual, Kevin. And then last game on Saturday in the Taunton Cup in Ruislip, it was Cavan 18 points, London 2-6. Johnny Murtagh.
Yeah, well, I was in London last week, and thank God I wasn't in it. Thank God I wasn't in it this week. Look, I think we suspected a Cavan win there, and it was a good win, John. Fair play to you. Well done. Look, there's no doubt about it. There's going to be stiffer tests ahead. I don't think Cavan give you any much encouragement there, but definitely Cavan is in the conversation to win it. There's no doubt about it, and I'm looking forward to a couple of these twisty games then later on. There's no doubt about it. I'd love to see maybe a Cavan and Meath sort of game, that sort of game. Somebody that's big and physical, the same as Cavan, to ask a few questions. I do think Cavan would take me, to be honest. That'd be something like I'd like to see down the line. I would agree with Kevy that a team I think could go on a wee run on this and be dangerous is Down. Okay. I do agree that. But look at Cavan went the whole way last year and just come up a wee bit short, so there's no reason why they can't push on, John. I said that to you. So look, they're off to a good start. Look, we'll see what happens next.
John, Cavan, Meath, nobody will pay into that. Mal will be the only one in the upper deck and the Cusick stand. The GA won't want that. They'll be praying not to have that one. Miserable shades.
Oh, Kevy. Can't wait till we play Antrim in this bloody Taunton Cup, get a dig at you. And then on Sunday in All-Ireland Senior Football Championship, round 1, Markfitts Park, it was Sligo, 14 points, Kildare, 14 points. Glenn Ryan is blaming the pre-match music on this one, Matthew Hurley.
Yeah, I'd say Aaron is absolutely delighted with this. I'd say he couldn't hide his excitement last night when I was chatting to him anyway. Like, maybe the grass was too long for Kildare and they couldn't win the game because of that. Maybe the stones were not right, or something like that anyway. And they failed to get us over the line anyway. But in all seriousness, fair play to Sligo. What a result for them. And it will go down to whoever gets third now. Will go down to how they both sides perform against Roscommon and Dublin. Right now, I'd probably back Sligo because Sligo are the kind of team that will frustrate Dublin and Roscommon to the depth, whereas Kildare are a team that could go man to man and then get hammered. You know, you don't know what to expect with Kildare. So Sligo are in a good place at the moment. And Niall Murphy, very good at the weekend, 6 points, I think 4 from play. Sean Carabine, despite the sending off, got 4 points before that. And obviously David Quinn get that late equalising score as well. So Tony McEntee will be absolutely delighted with that draw for Sligo. But for Kildare, they'll be ruining the missed chances in the game. They'll be ruining how they did the wrong things in the game, the wrong options, or else they'll be just moaning about the pitch. We'll have to see how the week progresses anyway.
Yeah, perfect. There we go. Great stuff. And then the last game of the weekend, lads, in Tall Cup Round 2, FBD Semper Stadium. It was down 2-18, Tipperary 6 points. Holy moly, Mal.
Didn't see anything apart from the highlights, but Owen Murdoch's goal was
phenomenal.
Some of the defending you'd have to question, but Jesus Christ, he just ripped it up. And I think that's maybe his fourth or fifth goal of the season. And
right, Mal, confirm if there was a bigger match in the changing room beforehand. What happened?
No idea.
Have you heard any rumours? No.
No.
I have.
Jeez, Johnny, that was very serious, Johnny. Just
tell us all, Johnny. Was Eugene Brannigan?
I heard the same as you that it was over Brannigan nailing your boy in a club game. That's all I heard.
Marty Clark in today's Irish News said that everybody's still on the panel. Was quoted. That's all I'm going by. But
sure, hey Mal, if they have a fair dig, that's it. Sure, that's the end of the story.
Yeah, they have to get it sorted out. That those type of things, as we saw in recent weeks with different issues with social media, they have to be sorted out inside the camp. They just have to be and get on with it. I think Down are serious contenders for this competition. They've used 27 players in their 2 matches so far. They're trying to get as many people football as they can by the looks of it. And probably a wee bit like Tony Mack in Sligo, where he's trying to build on the under-20s that they have there. They're going to have to do the same in Down. And maybe, like, I was very impressed by that boy Paddy McCarthy in their under-20 team. So it's about getting as many of those people in as possible. But I think there'll be an Ulster winner of the Tilton Cup from the point of view most of the contenders are from Ulster, but why not Down?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Down could go on a serious run here. I feel for Conor, to be honest. Conor Lavery lives and breathes football. It's his own Kilcoo club mate. Obviously, the incident everybody knows. Mm-hmm. I do feel for Conor because he's putting in an unbelievable amount of work at the underage, as we talked about. Mal, you said is needed in Donegal. He's shouldering that there himself, and he has been, and he's putting his shoulder to the wheel now and Down to try and push them on. It was a phenomenal result. Phenomenal. So
it was great. It was great because, like, obviously we saw that circulated in social media, and to be honest, I think the reason why trial by social media is coming out so much is because the GA don't deal with it. That's nothing to do with this incident. This is to do with incidents in general. I think that too much gets brushed under the carpet, so that nothing's ever dealt with. Every time there's a red card or suspension, it always gets overturned. You know, the GA have to tighten up on the discipline procedures. I'm not suggesting that's why there is trial by social media, but people seem to think that the only reason why at the minute something will ever be done is if you have a video and post it somewhere, and it leaves a very difficult situation in a team environment.
Yeah, but Mal, in all fairness, and you know your football in and out, especially in Ulster, upside down. It is still very rare for an incident like that,
It
and
is. Yeah.
it's very rare, and it's getting bad press. Like I'd say he just meant to have a dig at him. He didn't mean to obviously the guy got a bad injury, but you know it was a dirty dig, fair enough, but you don't see it too often. I'll put it that way. You definitely don't.
No, and I think people who want to knock the GA always, like, I suppose there's been a lot of issues lately across different incidents, and it has, it's dominated headlines, but there's far more good stuff going on. But
yeah,
Johnny, I think it's got to the stage where if something happens in a club game or a county game, and there's video to prove it, the suspensions have to stick. There's no point in going to Croke Park and getting off in a loophole, and then people actually get frustrated. So then they think nobody gets punished with anything. Something can happen next week, the week after, and the week after. And if nothing's ever done about it and it's pushed onto the carpet, people are going to go to social media for justice. And
but I'd be surprised that regardless of the GA or down, and this is why I feel for Conor, I would be surprised if it's not a law matter. Let's be honest.
If it's not a witch, Johnny.
I'd be surprised that the law is not involved.
Okay.
For that type, there's no hiding. Like it was, and he has to put his hand up and just say, "Look, I've done the wrong thing." That's it.
What do you think, Kevy? I suppose you kind of have skin in the game there with Johnny's point.
Sorry, I've just come back in. Sorry, my apologies. What was the original point?
Johnny point is, I think potentially it could be a matter for the law.
Which bit?
The Brannigan incident.
There is obviously precedent set before that. What you do inside a sporting arena is, for instance, boxing is regulated and ruled. It depends on whether the young man makes a statement to the PSNI at this stage about an assault, which is obviously caught on camera, that would then have to be investigated. The individual would have to be identified and interviewed. And unfortunately, we're seeing more and more of these. Obviously, the last couple of weeks have been dominated by paper talk and whatever else. It all depends on the next step is whether the young man makes a representation to the PSNI. Just another side point on it is the GA asked for insurance the other year. I think the young man lost 3 teeth, from what I believe. Was he wearing a gum shield? Another issue just on the side of that. But the next issue would be whether he decides to take that further, obviously, and then the PSNI would they would have to investigate after a complaint is made to them, and due process then would have to follow. But look, we're entering an era in the GA now where we have all sorts going on. I mean, you've got guys in the south now, and there was a paper headline recently about a fraud issue with a GA legend. We obviously had issues last week or the week before with an individual who was an inter-county coach with these issues. And look, a lot of these do not belong to the GA. They belong to the statutory authorities to look into and investigate. And I think we need to be very clear on that. The GA is a brilliant and a phenomenal organisation at an amateur and voluntary level. And people are calling into question about the GA and certain issues. These are not the GA's issues to investigate or to determine. They belong to other statutory authorities, north and south. So it's big business now, the GA. It's phenomenal. These guys are, the play at the top of the game, are heroes of Ireland. We look at Dermot Connolly actually not so long ago in terms of what happened with him in the Dublin courts, whatever else. So I've been there, unfortunately, I have to say, in my own personal life, I've been there, and it's a very, very difficult situation. It's a mental health issue, and you're exposed for it. And I think that people need to take cognizance of what individuals go through as well. That's very, very important. But all these things need to be done through the proper statutory authorities. And for things like assault, for things like domestic abuse, for things like fraud, these are all police issues. They're not the GA's position. So don't beat the GA up about them.
Yeah.
Social media is a very dangerous place.
Oh, you're right, man. Yeah.
I did a call last week on the social media and the Twitter. Anybody who's not involved in sport, I just don't follow them anymore because there's too much nonsense. I need to be able to follow people sport related for my work, but there's just too much nonsense. It's a very nasty place.
Mal, and you said a lot, and we talk about, on the one hand, as a society and as a nation, we talk about mental health, and we talk about journalists who are vultures. Many of them are, and I know you and Dave are involved in it, and not in the news end of things, but we have a statutory duty to ensure that what we're reporting is right, and we're having these things now. BBC Today, this morning, has launched a thing called BBC Verify around the world, where it fact checks nonsense that are put up online. That's a new website, and I think it's a new channel they're about to launch at the end of this month. We need to understand that we have some of these guys have done great things for us. We talk about the DJ Curies of this world. We talk about, different people this world. We need to be very, very, very careful of how we report these things or what we do. And we need to be, I suppose, we have a duty of care, and we're not protecting that. Social media it's a vile place, and the court of social media is not a court of law. As I say, and I'll say it for the last time before I leave this, there is statutory authorities right across this country, whether it be north or south, that investigate these things, and it is up to them and the senior professionals that work for them to take things forward.
Perfect. Yeah, there we go, lads. Well said. All good. And we will move on to this weekend's action in the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship Round 1. You have Louth against Cork in Park Talton at 3 p.m. Mr. Hurley.
Big game for both sides. Huge, massive game for Cork. Realistically, Cork have to win this game to have any chance of progressing into the next stage of the All-Ireland, because realistically, they're not going to beat Kerry or Mayo, as David mentioned earlier on. Look, these sides are very, very close. Last year in the championship, Cork beat them in Park and Keep thanks to Brian Hurley and Colin O'Callaghan getting the goals. Then the league, Louth beat them back in February in RD. Largely, Daniel O'Mahony got a sending off just before half-time in that game, and that kind of derailed Cork's chances then. But Louth have been on an upward trajectory up until the Dublin game when they got hammered. They conceded 5 goals. They were very, very open at the back. And it's very unlike Biggie Hart teams, actually. I've studied Louth in the last few weeks, and I think they're very, very open defensively. Even when you look at the Offaly game in the Leinster semi-final, the Peter Cunningham goal, it was very, very open from a Louth point of view. And I think the goalkeeper, James Califf, is very, very vulnerable under the high ball, and Cork need to capitalise on that. Luckily now for Cork, Brian Hurley's going to be back on Saturday. He's back from his injury. Kieran McCarthy reported a week ago. Stephen Sherlock is flying fully fit. Colin O'Mahony's still out, and he's going to be out for the rest of the group stage, which is a big blow to Cork's chances. Sean Powter's going to be massive at running at that Louth defence, especially what Peter Cunningham did against Louth for Offaly. So, it's a huge game for Cork. They've scored 21 goals in this calendar year alone. You would think they're a more forward team when you look at that stat. But I looked at the game against Clare, and it was worrying signs. Cork were probably, out of all the teams I've seen in the championship, Cork were probably the most backwards team I've seen. They kept them, once they got the ball in the 45, they passed the ball back. There was no forward thinking. Hopefully, with Brian Hurley and the team, they're going to belt it long, have a bash off Louth and see what happens. But I can easily see a Louth win here, unfortunately. The Louth, like Mickey Hart is a strategic coach. He's a smart coach. He'd probably set his team out to play defensive football, especially like Partalton, I'm hearing, is a wide pitch. Like if Lowe packed the defence and that, the Cork are going to find it very hard to find gaps. It's going to be very, very difficult for them. The midfield battle is going to be very interesting between O'Callaghan, Maguire, Durnan and Early. You'd be hoping that Cork will come up on the right side of that. It's going to be a big game for both sides. Like Cork probably have the better players, but Lowe probably have the better mentality. That's the difference. So it probably could be a draw in this game. It's going to be very, very tight to call, very close game, and it's a vital game for both sides. I'd say this could be one of the tightest games of the weekend, to be honest with you.
Yeah, perfect. We'll beat on, lads. The clock is running on us. We'll move on to Armagh against Westmeath in Boxit Athletic Grounds at 4:45 on a game, of course, to be live on GA Go. Mr. Johnny Morton, looking forward to this one.
Yeah, I am looking forward to just to see Armagh getting back on the horse as such after the Derry game. I don't think it was a spectacle by any means, but it was an exciting game. It was close encounter. It went all the way, and it had the romance and all that there. But I think for me, I'm going to cut this short. I think the players come up short. I know Geese are committing back to players, and that's fine, fair play to them. But we had 3 and 4 forwards that never touched leather, and I done the stats on the game. Never touched leather for 40, 50 minutes. It was unbelievable. You know, can we really play that bad again? Derry was the same. Derry was way below par for me, maybe for obvious reasons. For me as well, I think the management team have to hold their hand up and probably made a couple of wee mistakes. Bringing Grugan back on wasn't a good idea. Had a chance of winning it, kicked it short. Actually had Charlie O'Byrne standing in the middle of the D on his own. I sent on the picture to you. I couldn't believe it. Mm-hmm. You know, how, like, if you're a Dublin, you're a Kerry, or any of the top teams that want to go anywhere, a Mayo or Galway, they do not miss that. They see that a mile away. Bourne standing in 20 yards of space right in front of the goals for the winner. You know, you pop him the ball. You know, it's wee things like this, and you know, as regard, you know, Derry has a stiffer opposition, whereas Armagh, no offense to Westmeath, I think they're a big championship outfit. You know, they're just not at the level. I don't think, you know, for them, for Armagh, and Armagh has them at home. You know, so I think we have a chance to get ourselves back. You know, back on the horse as such. And I can't see the Armagh forwards playing that bad again. Like, that's the worst collectively they've played all season. You know, bar Rain was shouldering, putting his shoulder to the wheel. You know, we only had 2 forwards to score from play, and I know Mallias are very good at shutting teams down and everything else, but like, we did have chances and we just did not take them.
Is any of that stage fright, Johnny? The occasion?
No, I wouldn't say a stage fright. No, I think a couple of guys maybe just had below par games. A couple of guys got found out, and a couple of vital bad mistakes. And we seen that against Galway last year, and it's come back to haunt us again. We've seen it again when the game was in the melting pot. Like that one, you know, very bad mistake. Eden Rafferty, like, and I applaud him. He's had great games for Armagh, kicked some great scores. You know, he gave away an awful goal coming off his line at that stage was absolutely crazy. Come off his line. We were a point up, give away a couple of kickouts. Derry took the lead. It's wee things like that there. You know, that ball should have been going long. We should have been working on something. There was, I don't know if Mal, if you've seen this. There's another thing. Rafferty got the ball out in the pocket, out in the wing. Chrissy was down. He was cramping up, and he was down, stretching himself out. And Callum Komsky was standing on his own in 15 yards of space inside. The goal was on, and nobody seen him.
Mhm.
Referee didn't see him. Nobody seen him. Poor Chrissy was down, stretching himself out with cramp. You know, these are the things. These are the things that top teams will skin you into. You know, you just can't do it. And listen, fair play to Geezer. He backed the players, but the players have to shoulder it. Like, and Geezer does get a lot of abuse, especially after that there in Armagh. But the players, for me, when you look at them mistakes, and like I said, I went over it. When you look at them mistakes, the players have to come out and play for him now the weekend. It's up to the players to come out. And tell you, if it was me, I don't know what they're going to do. But if it was me, some of them boys would be sitting their arse on the bench, and the likes of a Keane McConville or the likes of a couple of other boys there, I'd be running them. I'd be running them this weekend and scolding a couple of boys. If you have a forward, John, that never touched leather for 50 minutes of the game, his ass has to sit on a bench and he has to get the fire back in his belly and maybe put him on and see what he does then. That's the way I'd be playing it.
Okay, Johnny, but you can't have a forward. Sorry, not to prolong this conversation. You can't have a forward that does that. A very, very good forward if your tactics are Jurassic.
I don't agree with you. For the simple reason was we had chances to win the game, Kevin. We had chances to win the game. The Sacks they played and Geezer.
Sorry, Johnny. Right. We will fight about this and we will be controversial. And you can be as much as controversial as I can. I know that. But like we have to debate this. You had 8 minutes to win the game. You had 8 minutes to push up when Rodgers was off. And there he played you. You sat back, you were conservative. You were cautious, I think we called it last weekend. And you texted me during the week about it. McGeady and his management team now for 3 to 4 years has been tactically inept, in my opinion.
I agree to a certain stage, but I do also say, and maybe Mal's opinion would be vital in this, that Armagh did see this coming. Armagh seen an opposition like this that causes bother, and they did try in the league games and work on specifically that sort of style of play to see to prepare themselves for something like this down the line in championship. Now, this is what I'm talking about. They put themselves in a position to win the game, and the players didn't deliver, Kelly. That is it. And the facts and everything is right there in front of you.
I would say.
Oh, okay, that's fair enough. Hold on, Mal. Let me just come in on this. Fair enough point. When you have 4 inside marquee forwards, Turbot, O'Neill.
Turbot never touched leather.
Exactly. But then again, you have to go back and analyse. Was the ball kicked in early enough to him? Did he get the service?
No, he didn't. He was
Alan Shearer could only play because Alan Thompson was one side and Faustino Speedy was the other side. He could only score goals when the wingers were good because he knocked the ball into him. Armagh had nothing last week. Their tactics were brutal, mate.
I don't know, Mal. Fire away there and see where we go. Here.
I would say the night I remember I was on holidays in Letterkenny and I watched Armagh and Kerry and a real bore fest. And I remember thinking Armagh are planning for 2 things here: to play against a team like Derry, or to limit a team like Kerry in the championship if they met them down the line. I thought that was a dress rehearsal job. Yeah. So I actually thought that because it was the only logical thing I could think of. But going back to the Ulster final, I would have to say Derry's defence was pretty good, but the goal left Armagh chasing the game basically forever. And the couple of times I worried as a Derry man was whenever they got that advanced mark, it wasn't moved to Jardy Oak. I was panicking then. Then when the black card came, I thought to myself, shit, Rodgers absolutely ran extra time 12 months ago. How are we going to get through these 8 minutes? Derry kept the ball for, I would say, at least 5 minutes of that 8. One of them.
It was 5.
One of them, Shane McGuigan, went down injured and cheekily got up and went and won the kick out again. But Armagh had a couple of chances. I think it was Soupy had a chance to kill it off.
He kicked the ball into the He kicked the ball into the goalkeeper's hands, man. You're 100% right. They kept the ball for 6 minutes of the. I mentioned this last week. They absolutely bullied them, and there was no resistance.
Derry took the sting out of that 8 minutes completely, and then whenever Armagh got back into the game, Shane McGuigan literally caught the game by the scruff of the neck and won it. Sorry, got it to penalties.
Yeah, well, the only thing for me, Mal, right, is, right, and I will, if we didn't have the chances to win the game, and we had a couple of them, there's no doubt about it, we had a few of them, but if we didn't have that, I would shoulder the full blame on the management team. But that isn't a fact. The players have to shoulder some of the blame here. And I will say this, Shane McParland was never going to be fit for Rodgers in midfield. Not a chance. Never. And I know they switched it up, and Mac and them went in, and they switched it up. But that, that wasn't going to work. And Rain was in and out and in and out. You know what I mean? For me, there was a couple of key things that the management team will probably have to hold a hand up and say. The Grugan one was another one. Hold a hand up and say, look, that didn't work. It was a wrong move. Oisin Conti as well, a young guy from Tiernan, no experience. Put him in. He was slow to one ball. They got a fist ball away. And then the next one down the line, he lost it. I would probably say a man that was missing, maybe could have done a job, as Jamar Hall was a big miss. I thought, especially again Derry, for the engine he has and the work rate and everything else, a man like that was a massive miss. But I think the management team has to put the hand up for them things. But the players had the chances to win it, Kerry. There's no doubt about it. And they have to put the hand up and say, well, hold on a minute. It isn't good enough from their quarter either.
I thought coming into the game, obviously there was a load of distractions in Derry that made me worry about it. Could they match Armagh's hunger? Made me worry about it. But the thing that made me confident in Derry's ability to win that game was that Kieran Mackin couldn't mark Rodgers and Ethan Doherty. They needed two of those types of players, and I felt Armagh didn't have them and left them at midfield trying to sort of, I suppose, put square pegs and stuff in that didn't really work. And then Rodgers ended up.
I said this from the start, right? You have to hammer the hammer. Rain O'Neill was the man to mark Brendan Rodgers. End of story. That's what I would have done. I would have put him on the Brendan Rodgers.
I actually thought about that. Would that be the thought round cross? I actually thought about that as an option. Did you think that?
I wouldn't ask anybody round cross. I'm just saying my opinion. My opinion is you hammer the hammer. And you look at the amount of times that he ran at us in the first half, running at us. They fisted a couple of balls over the bar, and he fisted one off the post, wasn't it him that fisted it off the post wide?
Was, yeah. 5 minutes to go.
Unbelievable.
Brendan Rodgers ran 17 kilometres in last year's Ulster final. That's scary.
He's a phenomenal player. Absolutely phenomenal player. But if you're talking about getting, I would have put Shane McParland in the full forward line along with Mernon and Turbot and put Rain straight on to Brendan Rodgers. That's what I would have done. And leave Mackin and Rain in midfield.
Merlin's brilliant.
We can talk about this all day long, right? At the end of the story is quite simple. When you don't capitalize on when you have that psychological goal in the match, when they go down to 14 men, you can talk about, Brendan Rodgers running 17 kilometres. Armagh, Johnny, picked the wrong options time and time again in the forward line.
Yeah,
and
the players.
That.
That's the players.
Right. But did McGinney change James Morgan?
That's another one. Like I would have took Morgan off Shane McGuigan as well.
4 fouls in a row. 4 fouls in a row.
Yeah. And left him on for 90 minutes.
And Johnny, I think he's only played.
You put Aidan Nugent on, and I'm a big fan of Aidan Nugent, right, man? Aidan Nugent didn't actually touch the ball until the penalty. He actually contributed by moving the ball up for Derry twice. That is nowhere near good enough for any Armagh player. And I'm a big fan of his because he's a phenomenal player. He just hasn't got back to the level after injury. But, like, it's not near good enough. Not by a long shot.
Would you put... Sorry, guys. I'm not trying to pull on this. Jordan Burns, to me, is a great athlete. Not overly a great footballer. But he can spoil people. Would you put him on Brendan Rodgers?
No, I think the only man for Brendan Rodgers that we had a chance would have been Ryan O'Neill.
I think if Jamar Hall had been available, you could have done that, Kevin, because Charlie Hugh ended up having to do what Jamar Hall did, that sort of link role.
Yeah.
I think, and it just shows you how much he missed someone like Jamar Hall, because people think, what does he do? You found out what he did when he's not there.
He's a serious work rate. Yeah.
Unreal.
Look, we're going on and on here now. I suppose we all want to finish up. I was really, really disappointed with Armagh's tactics last weekend. I don't know if you heard the podcast last week. I was really disappointed. They were so cautious, right? They should have come out. They should have expressed themselves. They didn't do it. And for me, they played into Derry's hands all day long and twice on a Sunday.
I said to Liam beside me at the game watching the game, I says that Armagh was afraid of losing the game, and so was Derry. And that's the way the game went. Both teams were afraid of losing it, and none of them wanted to win it.
Yeah. There we go, lads. Johnny, should have had you on last week, big man. Where were you?
I was in London, big guy. I was in London.
There we go. Top class analysis, lads. Top class. We will bid on before Kevin gets kicked out of that restaurant he's in, and we'll move on to Derry against Monaghan, Celtic Park, 7 p.m. GA go. Mal, quick as you can say boo.
I fancy Derry, obviously biased, but I just feel they will get confidence out of winning Ulster again. Can they get the hunger again is the question mark. But Ryan McAnespie will be a great option back for Monaghan. And if Desi Ward has got a bit more training done, he's a big player for them. But I would like to think that Carl O'Connell doesn't get the run of the pitch like he did the last time. But Derry for me to keep up the winning run.
I fancy Monaghan.
Oh, there you go. A quick way.
I think if Armagh's lucky to get back in the horse for Westmeath, if Derry play like they play against Armagh, Monaghan will beat them. Monaghan will learn not to leave McManus exposed and all from the last day. I'm telling you now, Derry want to be careful. This is a banana skin.
Funny, Kieran Mina did say that in his interview. He says the difficult thing is we've Monaghan in 2 weeks and they'll be able to watch everything we did today. So fair point.
Yeah, we will wait and see with that game this weekend. And then on Sunday in the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship Round 1, you have Dublin v Roscommon, Croke Park, 4 p.m. The game will not be live on TV, but I think we all know what is going to happen there. Make no doubt about it. And then a bit of housekeeping before we wrap up, lads. The GA.E football team of the week was in nets with Shane Ryan, Cathal Sweeney, Shay Ryan, Nathan Mullen, Conor Myler, Kevin Flynn, Owen Bon Gallagher, and then midfield Matthew Moran, Paul Conroy, then a half-forward line of Oisin Gallen, James Carr, Kieran Thompson, and then a full forward line of Aidan O'Shea, David Clifford and Niall Murphy. And then the Taunton Cup team of the week was Michael Byrne, Pierce Lafferty, Killian Clark, Shea Cullen, Irlo O'Sullivan, Oisin Kernan, Paul Maher, midfield of Oran Murdoch, and then Damon Larkin. Then a half-forward line of Joe Hagan, Ryan Lyons, and then Rory McCann, and then a full forward line of Peter Nash, Matthew Costello, and Dylan Highland. And the GA.E Footballer Player of the Week nominees are Aidan O'Shea, Paul Conroy, and Oisin Gallen. To wrap up, lads, David Byrne, your player to watch this weekend and bet of the weekend.
Player of the weekend, it has to be Aidan O'Shea, to be honest with you. I thought on the free taking, he was kind of flawless. He was taking from one side. He had a fantastic game.
No, player to watch this weekend and bet of the weekend.
Player to watch this weekend.
Yes.
Cut in the hop now.
Just say Paul Mannion. Sorry, David. I don't know what I said to you.
Say again. My internet is bad in midfield.
No, your player to watch this weekend and bet of the weekend. If you don't give me an answer, I'm getting Johnny after you.
But say Paul Mannion. I have to agree with you. I guess
Bet of the weekend.
of the weekend gone.
Oh lordy, no, this weekend coming up, man. Oh, he's in and out, shaking all about. Kevy, player to watch this weekend. Bet of the weekend.
Bet of the weekend, Armada win against Monaghan after what Johnny said. Player to watch. Look, there's lots, but I'm going to go for Rian O'Neill. If he's about. He's a huge leader in this team.
He loves that little. He says something really important, and then he just throws in a little.
No, well, I'm just being honest with you. He's the leader of this new era in Armagh. Johnny knows him better than me, and I don't know what the synergy is at the minute with McGee and Kim. He's the man. If Armagh are to do anything, he's going to be central to it, and it's going to be it's a big game for them this week because they're coming off the back of what just happened. So, they're probably in a low place and they're in a difficult group. So, yeah, let's see what Rian does.
Beautiful stuff. Miss McMullen, your player to watch this weekend and bet of the weekend.
Player to watch this weekend, Ryan McAnaspey, from the simple reason to see what he can add to Monaghan. I believe he's played in a couple of challenge games lately and a bit of club football. Bet of the weekend, Louth to beat Cork. And I think it's so important for Armagh and Derry to finish top because of the congested Ulster Championship. I think if they're to do anything in the All-Ireland, they need to finish top of the groups.
Mr. Hurley.
Player to watch, I'm going to go Brian Hurley. I think there's a game in him after injury in recent weeks, and he'll definitely roast the Cork players. And based on the weekend, I'd probably go Westmeath to lose by less than 10 points to Armagh.
Johnny Murtagh.
The bet of the weekend, I'm going to go with Monaghan to beat Derry. And
Man, I love you for that one.
the player to watch, and this is totally from left field here now, boys. The player to watch, and I think this is the move that Armagh should make, is Keane McConville for Armagh.
I knew you were going to say that.
Keane McConville for Armagh, boys, and I'll tell you why. Keane McConville scored 55 points for Cross.
Is he a Cross McGlane man?
Last year's championship. 55 points, Kevin, he scored last year's championship, right? And he was club championship player of the year last year. And I believe he played well against Dublin there in a friendly not too long ago. So that's a move I would make. He's left-footed free taker. So you can park any of them boys on the bench. If he wants to park Rugen or whatever, he can take over the frees and he kick them all day long. And if he starts, I am guaranteeing you that he'll kick about 7 or 8 points the weekend.
I had contemplated picking him as well for that one reason, that he would be the left field choice. So there you go.
It would be great to see get him game time. He was a sensation for Cross McGlane in some of them games live on the Armagh TV last year as well. He was a joy to behold. So it would be great to see.
He's made 4 sub appearances this year out of, I don't know, probably 10 or 12 matches.
Yeah, he's a brilliant footballer. It'd be great to see him get a bit of action this weekend. He well deserves it. Mr. Byrne, we have you again. What are we thinking?
I think I'll go match it there. He was saying how close the Louth and Cork game will be. I think it'll come down to free scoring. So I'll go with Samurai for Louth, and I think the better of the week will be Louth to beat Cork. That'll be a very, very tight game. It'll go down to the wire. It's a fascinating group, I think. So that it will be a cracking game. I think it'll be tight. It won't be entertaining, I think, but it'll be it'll be a good watch in terms of tactical and see who comes through that game. We'll go with Sam Mulroy anyways.
Not McIlroy.
No.
God resisted.
No comment.
Oh, look, I had to give you. Well, lads, we got through it without killing each other. I thought Johnny. Kev, still there? Gone. Yeah, we'll take it as he's gone. Thought Kevin and Johnny were going to kill each other, but we got through it.
He's tucking into an Indian curry there.
Not the only thing he'll be tucking in tonight, Johnny. Johnny Murta, Mal McMullen, Matthew Hurley, Kevin McGarty, David Byrne. Thanks a million for joining me this week. And of course, the podcast brought to you by OurBreads.com. Use the code JMac Podcast to get 15% off on their glorious website. Lads, thanks very much. We got through it.
All the best. Sláinte.